we're going to spend just over an hour talking about empowering youth with disabilities and using online tools for transition. So hopefully I can get this all done in time and not, put anybody to sleep, right? Or take too long and then you're late for your next session because these are things I could talk a lot about, right? What we're going to do today is we're going to go through actually 3 websites that we've created here at ERI. And we're going to show you how to use those as part of your tools kit, right? Your kind of set of tools to say, how do I plan to transition out of school and into the world of working? Okay. Hopefully, when you're all done, everybody's going to rush out and use these websites. That's the goal. Okay. Let's see if this works. There we go. So, just an overview. We're going to do a little welcome introduction, why we're doing this, the 3 websites. We're going to talk a little bit about pre-driving assessment. How many are here for that? Yeah, come on. You guys saw the pre-driving assessment and went, what's that? Right? Okay, so we're going to talk about that. That's not on this slide, but we are going to do that. And then we're going to talk about how to put all this into play, right? As you start planning what the next steps are. Okay. All right. So why transition tools matter? It matters because without tools, you're kind of just going into the wild blue with no clue, right? Right. Um, and how many of us knew what we wanted to be when we grew up? Anybody in the room, you knew what you wanted to do? One, you knew what you wanted? You knew what you didn't want to do. There you go. Changed it a few times. I tell folks it's okay if you didn't know. I, I'm, I think I'm kind of grown up and I don't even know if I'm in the right spot yet. Right. Maybe I recently saw somewhere, what did you want to be when you grow up? I want to be younger. Kind of like that one. Anyway, what we realize is that it's important to start early, right? You've got to start young, you got to start early, and you got to be informed, right? You can't just go out and transition from high school into the world of being an adult if you don't know what that even means or what that even looks like, right? So we kind of start this with start early. What does it look like? Okay. And then recognize that youth face a lot of hiccups, right? And a lot of speed bumps through their life, getting to the spot where they can graduate and become, I'm going to quote an adult, right? Because again, the definition of adult is still up for grabs, right? Okay. We talk about the role of families and educators and service providers, right? This is all going to be part of this because guess what? Life takes a village for all of us, right? What's not in there is that the person going through the transition is the key to the team, right? So we'll talk about what all of our roles are, or service providers, or family. But remember that those are support roles to the person who's going through transition, right? Okay. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits of using these websites too. All right. I'm going to tell you, they've got the technology set up great. And I'm afraid if I start messing with it, I'm going to have you in and out of this screen. And so I'm not going to be bumping into internet sites for you, which might speed up this presentation. Okay. Usually I take a lot of time playing on websites with folks. I love conversations. So stop me and say, hey, I got a question. Okay. All right. First up, we're going to talk about before age 18. Before age 18, and if you have phones and want to Google these, that's cool too, because they work all on phones, not just computers. All right. Age 18 is a youth-focused roadmap. What's really cool about age 18 is that it's what do you call that? Multi-audience, right? So people who are using before age 18, you would think it's supposed to be all people who are before age 18, right? There's a whole section on before age 18 for a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old to go ahead and go in there and play around with, what does my junior year of high school look like? What does my senior year of high school look like? There's another whole section that says, wait a minute, I provide service to somebody who's transitioning. What is this going to look like for this individual? And you can plug everything in and you can say, hey, we're going to do this, or we think we want to do that. And it'll print like this really cool roadmap with checklists. Who gets through their day without a checklist? Right. We all need checklists, right? This website will produce that checklist for you. The other one that's really cool on this one is the adult. And we'll dive a little deeper. I just won't get to play on them, okay? So, we're going to talk about what that means for youth, uh, family members, those kind of things. We're going to talk about Explore Work. Has anybody ever been on that website? Love it. That means I'm going to introduce you guys to something really fun today. Explore Work is a website that we have created that has modules for learning. And while it says this is for youth, guess what? I've been on it. I've played in it. I enjoy it, right? They have interest inventories and all sorts of things. So we'll talk about that one. That's all about where am I going, right? I'm going to explore work. What does that look like? I'm going to spend some time talking about our newest and latest and greatest, and probably the one I'm most excited about, which is Transition Discoveries. Cool thing about Transition Discoveries is it's a data-driven website that was based on youth who went through transition, right? They were either in the middle of transition, they had just transitioned, or they were coming into that high school transition, right? And we sat down with a lot of youth and said, what do you need? What would entertain you? What would help you? And we used their voices to create this website. So it's extremely youth friendly. Okay. Bless you. Okay. So let's start with before age 18. Let me dig in a little deeper. And again, remember, folks, I'm going to just keep going if you don't stop me and ask a question. Okay. I know there's time for questions at the end, but feel free to interrupt. Before age 18, here are a couple of the things you're going to want to look at. They have action steps for teens and families. This is the one where you can kind of go in and go, hey, I'm 15. Hey, I'm 16. Hey, you know what? I'm a mom, right? What do we do at this step? And it actually goes in and it'll ask you, if you're a youth, you're 14, have you transitioned from a pediatric medical provider to an adult provider yet? Because guess what? Medical, it's part of someone's transitioning into adulthood, right? So it's really cool because it gives you those action steps. It reminds you of all the things you didn't know you needed to know. I can guarantee you, I would have loved to have had this when I was a youth. Nobody told me when I was 17 or 18 that it was time to go see an adult provider for my medical instead of a pediatrician. I didn't know that. Right. Um, it's really cool. We have videos. Folks, how many folks remember what we call the Promise Project? Does anybody know what that is? I see a couple heads nod. So the Promise Project was a project that, oh my gosh, 6, 7 years ago, maybe something like that. 10 years ago, even. Now I'm going to start dating myself. And it was a project with the Division of Voc Rehab that said if we introduce individuals to employment young and we support their families, the road to employment is easier. And the more exposure to paid work experiences as a youth, the more successful somebody is going to be employed as an adult, right? So these are kind of things that came out of the Promise Project. ERI was involved in that Promise Project for several different ways. What's really cool is we've got videos on youth who were in that project. And that's how many people have teenagers at home that they deal with or I don't know, have been a teenager. Who's going to admit they were a teenager once, right? If mom or dad or, grandma or somebody says, no, you need to go do this, you can do this. What's the first thing that happens when you're a teenager? Whatever, right? Because their voice doesn't mean anything. They're old, they're adults, they don't get it. They don't get what it's like to be a teenager. What's I'm bringing this all up because these videos and real life stories will hook in a youth every single time. Why? Because it's a youth's voice. These are young folks with disabilities who have stepped up and said, I'm going to work. And it shows their story. And that all kind of came out of part of that Promise Project. So if you find a youth looking at you and going, whatever, you can pop on this website and get them some videos to watch. Because again, they'll watch videos before they talk to you, right? It has activities, interactive activities, right? They can plan, they can manipulate what they're going to do based on their age. Okay. They also has a link to a transition resource guide. All right. One of the cool things about these websites, they're all available in other language, Spanish and Hmong. Okay. If somebody were to need it in Braille or another language that's not readily accessible on our website, you contact ERI and say, hey, could we possibly get this in this language? Right? We can work with you. But the nice thing about these websites is there's a little icon up there that you can pop it into language, the primary language. Again, we have English, Hmong, or Spanish are the three big ones. Okay. All right. See, I was about to go here. So use this. All right. One of the other things that happens at age 18 when you have a disability on file is you go through what we call an age 18 redetermination because apparently Social Security thinks age 18 is like a miracle number. How many of us, it was like you turn 18, you're instantly an adult, right? Because you're not any different than you were on, 17 years and 364 days, right? Day 18, age 18, whole different world. At age 18, this redetermination happens. And there it can be overwhelming for families, for youth, for people who support each other. This website has an actual page that will help you through each step of that age 18 redetermination. What should you expect? What should you see? What to do when you see it? Okay. So they've got a lot of links on this age 18 redetermination. Super helpful. Okay. Okay. This is the other one that's really fun. I almost feel like it's kind of hidden on that before age 18 website, but this is that transition tool that I was talking about. So you plug everything in and you say, I'm working with so and so, or it's my daughter, or however you're using that, you plug in all the information you have. Right? We're 17. We're going to graduate with our class. We're not going to go into extended special education, right? I'm 17. I'm going to graduate with the rest of my class. I think I might go to college. I think I might want to be a plumber. Whatever you're putting in, and then there's a little button on the bottom that says go. And it creates a printable roadmap for the person who is in transition and their support team. You can print it, you can email it to yourself, you can text it to yourself, right? It is a really cool tool to help folks know what's next. Because how many people really knew what's next, right? This kind of goes back to my initial conversation or my initial open. How many of us knew what was next when we were in high school? We're out in the blue without a clue, right? This one gives you the roadmap. It's really cool. Okay. Just to give an example of what that transition planning tool looks like when it happens, that you get the email. We want you to see a little clip of this. Here's kind of what it's going to look like. Say somebody went in at age 15 and plugged everything in. It's going to say the things you do now at home make a difference in how well your child does in school. This is cool. It doesn't ignore school, right? It's about becoming an adult, but how many people as adults still stay in school? So this even helps navigate what to do in school. What do I put in my IEP? What do I do with that? What do I do with my transition team? Okay. It's really neat because you get the immediate results, you get it emailed to you, you have access all of it at your fingertips. Okay. All right. I feel like I'm going fast. Any questions, thoughts? All right. All right. If something does come up, stop me, come back. Okay. You can do that. Let's talk a little bit about Explore Work. Explore Work is a website that ERI created moons ago. There we go. I'll call it moons. We partnered with an agent, with the university, George Washington University, in their WinTAC Center, which is the, what is it, Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center. It's now part of the National Technical Assistance Center. So if you're out there looking at resources and trainings, you might see those a lot. ERI partnered up with that university. Then we worked with University of Madison and Stout. And what we did is we said, how do we engage youth in a way that's interactive and it's a learning tool that can be fun? Okay. Then guess what? COVID came around, right? COVID hit. And then DVR came to us, our Division of Voc Rehab came to ERI and said, how do we engage youth who aren't in school? They're all online now. Where do we get them? How do we capture them? Right? So we partnered with DVR to make sure that all of these players came together to make a website that, for those who do service provision, know that this hits all of the pre-ETs. Is that a term folks know? Pre-employment transition training services, I think, right? And it's all part of the Workforce Innovation Act, not Opportunities Act, okay? Which says we need to reach out to these youth to cover workplace readiness, self-advocacy, all of those pieces. This website captures all of those, okay? They're interactive. This is cool. You can interact. You can, what do we say? Asynchronous or synchronous, right? You can guide someone through it, or you can just go do it in your free time. Okay. Explorework.com. I'll show you a couple of things about Explore Work in a second. But before I go much further, I'll say it now and I'm going to say it probably 3 more times, maybe 4. These websites, folks, are free. They don't cost you a penny. You don't have to have an account. You don't have to have a subscription. If you want to go play around, now again, remember this was created for the gear of youth. This is kind of where it was going. We geared it towards youth. But I've been in there. I've taken their interest inventories. Ashley, have you ever done them? They're not bad, right? Not bad. Like you don't feel like you're being treated as a youth. So even as adults, we get in there and play on them, right? Okay. So why do we use this one? It's fun, right? Helps folks kind of discover their interests, their talents, learn more about education, right? And I'm not sure about other folks, but I know for me, I left high school and went, yeah, I want to go to college. I had no clue there was another option, right? You graduate, you either go to college or you don't. I didn't know there was any in betweens. Right? How many of us don't know there's in betweens? So using Explore Work, we can work with people to say, look at all the in betweens. There's internships, there's apprenticeships, there's all sorts of things, right? And they get to learn about them and what that means to them, right? Not that we don't want folks to keep going to school, but it's not for everybody, right? Okay. Get to explore some real job experiences. If you're using this, you kind of get in there and you do some scavenger hunts and all sorts of things and learn about a ton of different careers. Right? It's really cool career shopping on here. Self advocacy, this is a big one. How do we know to tell people what we need? Right? A lot of us don't know. How do you know? So using this, it actually does a whole module and training around how do I advocate for myself? How do I tell the world that's not what I want? Right? So there's a whole module around that. It's a lot of cool stuff. You can even there's some skill building too. Little workplace readiness. We teach things like if you're on the floor at you're working the floor of customer service in your new job, don't be on the phone, right? How many of us want that? Go into a store and you see a kid working and they're got that phone up to their nose. We teach about these things, right? That's not customer service. All things we teach, right? Okay. Couple tips for using Explore Work. You guys might have to keep track of me time I'm going to say this. It's free. Right? It's free. So it's free to use. You don't have to create accounts. What's cool is if you do create your own account, you get to keep track of where you've been, where you're going, what activities are. You can go back, you can do some journaling. We ask you to journal on there. You can print it out, right? All sorts of cool things if you create your account. You can do it. Youth can do it. And for schools, we actually have teacher accounts. So if you do know of a school that's interested, we have teacher accounts where teachers can get a subscription. And in that subscription, they can log in and they can keep track of where all their students are within that curriculum. So we do have some subscriptions, right? But that's because it gives them that teacher trainer access on the backside. Okay. All right. Questions about Explore Work? Okay. All right. I will say, we do want to talk a little bit about funding Explore Work, because if you're like, hey, I'm with Division of Voc Rehab and I want to try this Explore Work, but I want somebody to help me learn. I don't want to have to go and do this on my own. You can talk to your vocational counselor and say, hey, I heard about this program. I'd love to have somebody guide me through doing this Explore Work process. Right? There are ways for people to access this service and have it paid for by somebody else. You can get it, right? Talk to your VR counselor, talk to your long-term care manager. This is actually a fundable service through long-term care as well. Okay. Children's long-term service programming, also part of discovery and career planning, right? So under children's long-term services, you can talk to your case manager and say, hey, I think we might want to spend some time getting this service. Okay. Now I'm not promising you that they will pay for it. So don't go in and go, hey, Jolene told you you have to pay for this for me. Okay. Because they're going to come back to me and I'm going to get in trouble. Just don't tell them I told you that you promised it, but you can go ask for it. Okay. It's part of that self-advocacy, right? Advocate for yourself. I want that service. Can we have that? Okay. And again, we have the option to do this with schools. Okay. And take another breather because we're done with before age 18. We're done with Explore Work. Moving into one that's little, I get pretty lengthy on this one. Okay. You guys are quiet. All right. Let's talk about transition discoveries. This is the one that I said I think I was really excited. I was really excited about this one because it was created through youth voices, right? This wasn't just a bunch of people sitting behind a desk or a computer going, "Oh, I think this would be fun." Right? We had the youth doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's coming up every other single day. Would it probably be more helpful to check back into the sites we're open just in case you have to make a detour? Plan?
It can't hurt. Yeah. I mean, it can't hurt. No, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, she's asking, like, with all the changes that are happening in our world these days, would it be helpful to log back in sometimes and check or come back every couple days? It can't hurt. We do have staff at ERI who are behind the scenes that manage and monitor these websites and keep them updated. So it can't hurt. Life throws curveballs, doesn't it? Just because you think you're going one way, life sends you a different one. Come back over here, plug it all in, change it up. That's okay. Go ahead. Not that I know of, actually. Sorry, the question was, do users who have accounts get updates like emailed to them? And you know what? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. But maybe they should. You are right. It's good feedback to have. Here's the thing I'm gonna, before I go into this transition discoveries, you make a good point. You bring up the good suggestion. These are all websites that are being monitored behind the scenes at ERI by ERI staff. So if you're in there and you're like, that page isn't working. That page is glitching on me. You know what? That page might work better this way. Our team is never against hearing that feedback. The only way these websites stay good and current is feedback from the people who use them, right? So if you see that, say something. It's feedback I'll give, right? I'll give that feedback. Okay. Any other questions? I'll dive into transition discoveries. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I said we were doing introductions and then my name was up there or somewhere in there and I said to Ashley and I realized that I probably didn't dive actually and give you the full introduction. So thank you for catching that and asking me to fix that. Why don't we do that now? Taking a breather. So you're right. I say ERI. That's short for Employment Resources, Inc. We are a nonprofit private organization. We're based here we're based in Madison, but that's our brick and mortar. I tell folks it's like it's our mothership, right? We are actually all over the state of Wisconsin. We're in all four corners. Okay. And by all four corners, I mean it. We're in Milwaukee, we're up in Ashland, we're up in the far northeast, we're down in the La Crosse area, and we're all over in the center of the state too. So we're all over. Okay. I'm Jolene Wanick. I've been with ERI for many years, have spun my hat a few times. I'm currently our client services director. So I work with all of our staff who provide direct services. We do a variety of services around benefits counseling, social security, applying for benefits, employment, long-term care services. We do a little of all of that direct service stuff. And then, do you want to introduce yourself? She's standing behind me, which makes it bad because I have to keep turning away from you to remember she's here because you're so quiet.
Well, you're presenting. Hello, my name is Ashley Manuel, and I'm also an employee at Employment Resources, Inc. I've been with agency for 4 years as of last week, woohoo. And I'm one of the employment specialists located in the Madison office. I do a lot of different things at ERI, which is great because it provides variety to my day. But today I'm going to be talking about the pre-driving assessment service, which is a really great service for youth and even people that are a little bit older. So we'll get into that in a little bit.
She had to come with. I'm not the expert on driving assessments. She is. So, Okay. Introductions halfway through. There you go. She gave me the excuse. It was the microphone. It threw me all off the minute I was told I have to hold a microphone. Okay. Let's dive into transition discoveries a little bit, and then I will stop talking and hand it back to Ashley. So transition discoveries, again, it's a website designed with youth voices. It's based on feedback from the youth, their families. We also did take into consideration stakeholders, right? People who support youth and their families. It's about building a better system. And I'm going to say with the student, not just for them. That's what it says up there. I'm going to tell everyone in the room that I know this says student, but once again, I'm an adult. I like this website. Okay. When we first got introduced to it, do you remember that? Like they were giving us like this, here's the website, here's how it works. And then youth really love it because after, working their brain for a while, they can stop and play a game. And I was like, well, hang on, I want to play a game. Like stop the train. I want to play that game. Right. So what's really cool is that even as adults, you can use this to kind of explore, right? But it is kind of game driven a little bit. Okay. It's based on conversations. We just want folks to know how we got here, right? It's a pretty intensive build site that was based on conversations with youth between the ages of 14 and 25. I know at 25, they all think, everybody thinks I'm an adult at 25, but still land in this group of youth, right? But then pulled in their families to talk about the 9 qualities of indicators of quality, right? So one thing we wanted to make sure was our websites addressed all 9 things on that screen, right? We talk about transition planning, we talk about youth development, family and youth directed planning, because remember who's at the heart of a team? The youth, right? The person in the center. Talking about relationships, because, I can sit here and say employment, 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 but what do we all get from employment? We get relationships, right? Where do you meet some of the best friends in life you ever meet, or you meet at work, right? So this is some of the things we talk about as well. Independent living, community engagement, cross agency, like all of these things kind of came out as key indicators of something that's quality for a youth transitioning. Okay. So on it, with this the transition discoveries, you set up an account. It's free, right? Let's put in there. This is free. Okay. You set up an account and you get a little avatar, get a little person. You get a little buddy who goes on the trip with you, right? I mean, I don't know. I think what they've got like raccoons and all sorts of little animals and stuff you can take on your hiking trip with you, right? And you get to name them and you get to dress them, right? And you prepare to run this marathon through hiking of preparing your future, right? A marathon and you're hiking. It's a workout, right? So at that point, you kind of begin that journey, develop who you are in your avatar. Along the way, this is when you're going to play in the website and you're going to see, I get to learn about my interests, right? Sometimes you take those interest inventories. I know they throw them out in school, but even as an adult, you do it and you go, huh, I guess I didn't realize I was really still interested in that, but I guess I am, right? Job preferences, right? It's going to ask, what are you interested in? What are your job preferences, right? What is your work experience? What have you experienced before? Some people have none, some have, right? And then it's going to say, who are your supporters? This is like the information gathering section of the website, because what's going to happen? Somebody's going to plug this all in. Boom, there's your avatar and it knows everything about you, right? And it can start to shift your journey to take into consideration those that are going on the journey with you, right? Like if you're kind of humming along on your journey and then it's like, oh, don't forget about your aunt. She's really important, right? Because why? When you put in supporters, you said my aunt. She's a big supporter, right? It's kind of cool. It's smart that way. All along the way, you're going to plug this in and you're going to get journey results. It's going to be personalized. It's going to get you those 9 core transition topics, right? You're going to get, my job summary. I'm a creator. I'm a helper. I'm a persuader, right? It's going to give you those and it will link you to jobs in those fields that fit somebody who's a thinker, right? What do those industries look like? How do we get there? Okay. Earning the badges and rewards and the rewards and badges. Again, how fun is that? I mean, I don't care if it's a little emoji dollars that I get. I won something. And now my little emoji, he's got like this cute little fuzzy boppy thing on his head. Okay. You just get to keep building, and it really does become fun. And what happens when you're having fun while you're doing something? You forget you're learning all along the way. Suddenly learning isn't so boring, right? It'll drill down what you're doing. Okay. It said I was a creator. What does that mean? Right? It'll give you the knowledge, the skill sets, the technology that's used. Who's a good personality fit? Okay. Um, Also, did you know when it gives occupations, did you know actors are considered creators? I wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't have made that connection until we'd done these kind of things, right? Actors are creators. Okay. So this is interesting because if you look in the bottom of the screen, there's the little blue and yellow thing that says ONET. Has anybody heard of ONET? Occupation Net. ONET is fantastic when you're looking for employment because all of this website is connected to ONET. ONET is it's a website that has like all your federal codes. And this is where, again, I don't want to mess with this technology, but we would flip in and out. ONET is a really cool website to give you all the different occupations that are out there, the industry code numbers, the skill sets connected to them. And if you see, if kind of middle of the screen where it says occupations, actors, architects, architectural, do you see after architects, there's like a little sun, a little yellow sun? That means it's a bright outlook future sorry, bright outlook uh, industry. There we go. There's the term I was looking for, which means ONET's telling you, hey, this is a growing industry. They're looking for architects. There's this bright outlook for work in that field. So ONET's got those nice connections of what is the occupation, what's out there. They cross-reference that with all sorts of job search engines to come up with this information. So yeah, what if you click on actors? It'll tell you everything you need to know about acting, how to get into acting, what your school is to go to get into acting, right? Who do you call? And then it'll give you a list of like, do you want to look at acting jobs near you? And you can actually go searching for employment based on clicking on this link. You can get lost, like lost in a rabbit hole with these websites. Like I could spend hours on this because it's like the endless information about jobs, right? Okay. So all along, you're seeing snippets from this website. So you can see like they're on their hike and they're on their next journey. Each adventure has a series of quests, right? You're going to watch a video, you're going to read a story, you're going to take that break for that game. Me, right? Snake, playing Snake or Tetris or something. It's going to give you a challenge. Got to go out and do something, right? Because how do we learn? We can read it, we can hear it, and sometimes we need to do it, right? And then there's a little journaling again. But again, remember, you earn badges and rewards for completing all these tasks. Okay. And the whole goal is that you're doing this to explore what tomorrow is going to look like. What do you want to be when you grow up? Okay. I think I'm at 4 and then I'll try and stop. It's free. There you go. I think I'll stop at 4. And I keep pointing that out because I think folks see these websites and go, oh, how much is it going to cost me to use this? Okay, there isn't the cost, right? This is why we're out here telling you about it because we want you to use these sites. Use the tools. Now, this is also a program kind of like Explore Work. If you want a subscription because you want to be a trainer, educator on the backside, see what your students are doing or individuals in your program, you can get an account. Then you can track what everybody's doing and you can help guide them from the backside. You don't have to, but you can. Okay. Some hidden pieces on this website. It's all about the fun. And I tell you all about the fun because that's the good stuff. But if you are not the person who's looking at transitioning or trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, right? If you're someone who's like, I wonder if I could help do this. I'm going to provide a service. I want to be a resource. There's an entire section of transition discovery simply about being a resource and what those resources are, right? You can look by topic, you can look by infographics, lesson plans. You can look as a provider, you can look as a family member, you can look as the person taking and engaging in the program. So again, multiple layers to this program of how it can be used. Also, is translatable in multiple languages. Again, there's little tools right at the top of our websites. Just click on the button if you want to change the language. Okay. Let's compare the three so we can figure out how to put them in. How do we put them into play? Get this. All right. Before age 18, it's a roadmap for navigating life's changes, right? When somebody hits 18. This is great for somebody who's younger than 18, but remember, as families, supporters, providers, adults, you can use it too, right? Explore work. That's your learning modules, right? It's really interactive, engaging. It's also the one with the required WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act. So if you are someone who's in the world of service provision, that's important to you. And then the transition discoveries, again, interactive learning tool. But this again is that system-wide engagement that's really focused in that kind of gaming learning experience. Okay. It's kind of cool. Just tidbit. You can use each one of these alone, or you can use all three of them, right? Succinctly, it might make sense. I'm going to do before age 18, and now I'm 18, and I'm going to explore work because I want to know what that looks like. And now I think I'm going to go to work, but what's next? You can pop over to Transition Discoveries and have a little fun figuring out your next steps, right? Or you can say, you know what, on all of it, and I just want to do Transition Discoveries. That's okay too. They're standalone or together. Okay. Maybe. I'm going to say that I'm, holding two things and talking with my hands. I've probably screwed this up. How about that? So I'm going to use my laptop now. All right. Before I do this, any questions for me on those three websites? All right. You'll hear me talk about them again in a minute, but I'm going to let Ashley, the expert over here with this one, I'm going to let her tell you about pre-driving assessment because pre-driving, right. Another youth-driven tool.
Use this.
Yeah, well, this was working.
Okay.
Like clicking back and forth. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Maybe it was just ready for you to have it, right?
Well, hello again. Like I said, my name is Ashley, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the pre-driving assessment service that we offer at Employment Resources, Inc. I'm sure you all remember the first time that you were behind the wheel and how exciting it was, or maybe a little nerve-wracking. My first time behind the wheel with the driving instructor did not end well. I drove into a snowbank. Still remember that to this day. I remember being so freaked out and never wanting to drive again. But I'm happy to report that I am a licensed driver. um, After a few months of taking a pause and just trying to process what happened after going into the snowbank, definitely got back behind the wheel and began practicing and haven't driven into a snowbank since. So that is great for great for me. So at ERI, we recognize that driving is a huge milestone in everyone's life. And so that's why we offer this pre-driving assessment service. The purpose of this service is to provide insight into someone's driving skills and abilities. So, our pre driving assessment takes place at our office, which is located in Madison, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, our driving simulator cannot move. It needs to stay in our room that we have at our office. So, when I start working with an individual, I take a few minutes in the beginning of the appointment to talk about their driving goals, some of their concerns, some of their, experiences. I've heard, so many different experiences, whether that's, a driving arcade game to a riding lawnmower, right? Some of those experiences have some of those same mechanics as driving a vehicle. And then we kind of jump into the pre-driving assessment appointment. So the first part of the appointment, we go over the very basic information, talking about safety, making sure they understand that you need to wear a seatbelt when you are driving, as well as, learning how to activate the headlights, the windshield wipers, things of that sort, learning the dashboard, right, and understanding how to look at the speedometer for your speed. And then once they, understand the basic lessons, we move into a little bit more advanced lessons, looking at the gear shifter, as well as, the two pedals, making sure they understand that we should use one foot for using the pedals, looking at, the process to safely move off onto the road. So that includes, starting the engine, right, pressing the brake, shifting into drive, things of that such. So I did have someone ask me, we do have the old fashioned key system to turn on the engine. They're like, you don't have push to start? And I was like, no, our simulator does not have push to start. It is definitely a key. So after they've learned, the very basic and advanced lessons, we take a little bit of time to put that into practice, doing some different driving exercises, looking at steering a little bit and how to control the vehicle on the road. And then we move into the actual assessment piece of the appointment, which typically is the last hour or so. The total time for the appointment is about 2.5 to 3 hours. And so the assessment is going to look at different things such as reaction time, a person's memory and concentration. So, for example, there's a driving exercise that an individual is asked to drive on the road for a period of time. A stop sign would suddenly appear on the screen, and the simulator is going to record how fast they're able to press on the brake pedal based on that stop sign appearing on the screen. So they'll complete that exercise 3 times in different weather conditions. The first time they complete it, it'll be on a sunny, regular day. The second time will be when it's raining outside. And then the third time when it's snow and ice on the ground, which we're very familiar with in Wisconsin. So it's a great way to kind of see, how a person reacts in different weather conditions, as you know that we all drive in different weather. Another driving exercises focuses, on concentration and just the overall ability to drive. This is actually one of my favorite driving exercises for individuals. A person is asked to drive on the highway and at a 55 miles per hour speed. This is a two-part exercise. The first time that they complete it, they're the only driver on the road, and the simulator is going to track how many times the individual speeds or goes under the speed limit, drifts out of their lane to the left and right. And then the second time that they complete this exercise, there'll be other drivers on the road. So they'll be driving in traffic. So this is a really great way to kind of see how an individual reacts to, other drivers, more of a real life, driving situation as, you know, most likely you're never going to just be the only driver on the highway unless you're driving maybe in the middle of the night. Um, And then the last set of exercises looks at visual information and being able to remember things. So the simulator will have different shapes that show up on the screen in different colors. So the individual needs to report what was the last color that was seen on the screen, what was the last letter that was shown on the screen. And this is a really great way to see how an individual can remember things and process visual information. So the pre-driving assessment, it is for individuals with disabilities with all driving experiences. Um, I usually see a lot of youth coming to um, get this service, but I have worked with older individuals as well. And we partner with a variety of funders, so CLTS, DVR, long-term care, things of that sort. So we want this to be accessible to a wide range of people. Um, it's really important to note that this service is not a driver's ed course. It's not skills training. So I'm not teaching someone how to drive. Again, this is a really great resource to see, this is someone's skills at this point of time. And just to see, do they have the appropriate reaction time? Is that something that they can work on? Do they understand, the various functions? Do they even feel comfortable, driving? I did have someone at the end of an assessment say, I just don't know if driving is for me. And I was like, that is okay. Maybe it's not for you right now, but maybe it's something that you can work towards. Um, so after the assessment, I will put together a report with the data from the actual assessment, with the results that the simulator gives me, and then as well as just general observations that I make. So, for example, I might say, this person did a really great job with understanding how to shift into different gears, and also applying the brake. Or, this individual really struggled with, remembering the process to turn on the vehicle, press on the brake, go into drive. They needed a lot of assistance from me to go through those steps. So a person can have a better idea of, their comfortability and skills and abilities when it comes to driving. Something else to note for the report, I don't definitively say if someone can drive or not. We leave that up to the DMV examiners, the medical professionals, that's their area of expertise. But I'm hoping to, in this report, highlight, the areas that a person did really well in, some areas that could, use some improvement or development. And we're hoping that this report is a helpful tool to figure out what's the best next step in terms of driving for an individual. So the driving simulator, there is a picture of it on our website, but it is, we're trying to make it feel like a, real car experience. And so we have a three-screen display, automotive controls. So the gear shifter, the emergency handbrake or parking brake. And then we also have adaptive equipment as well. So we do have the turn key, ignition, and the left foot accelerator if someone needs that. We do have the steering wheel knob and then hand controls for acceleration and braking as well if someone needs that. So, and it is wheelchair accessible as well. We do not assess if someone needs adaptive equipment or what the best equipment would be used for an individual, but we do have those available if someone were to need it. So like I said, the appointment's about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And this is my direct contact information, my direct phone number and email as well. If you or someone that you know may be interested in this service, it's a really great resource for a lot of individuals. And I actually met someone here today that they had their son complete the assessment, and we got to talk a little bit about how it was a really helpful tool for their son and how much they enjoyed it. So feel free. Also, there's a QR code if you'd like to scan that as well. So sorry, I gave a very brief overview. So any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Yeah. So in my report, I just write, observations. So like I said, like anything that kind of happened during the assessment piece, we don't provide, resources like what's the next best step or, driving education courses. We kind of leave that up to the team to kind of figure out, based on this report, like what do you think are the best next steps? Since we're not, tied to any like DMV or driver's education course. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. So I actually, we've had a couple of people, I think they have came back after maybe a year just to see like, have things improved. Maybe it was, they didn't get a lot of sleep. I've had people say like, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So it just might not be my best day. Right. Cause it is just like a point in time. So that is something that could be a possibility for an individual that may have not done so well. So it's definitely up to kind of, the service or the funders that you're working with if they're willing to kind of fund that service again. I think you had your hand up. So. Nope, there's not a maximum age limit. Nope, not that I recall. Yeah, no. Yes, yep. uh, yeah, sorry. Mm. Yeah, yes, I have. I've definitely have worked with people. Yeah, no, that's a really great question. Yes, I've worked with individuals that have, done driver's ed, and maybe, their caregiver, whoever is not comfortable with getting them behind the wheel quite yet. So this is a really like great way for them to kind of get that experience in a low risk rate situation. So and then yes, again. Yeah, so she asked if individuals that are not disabled can use this program, right? Okay. Sure. Sure. Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I know I've received many kind of inquiries about, this pre-driving assessment for individuals that don't have disabilities. And I think since this is, for individuals with disabilities, we've just, really have focused on that. But maybe that's something we can, I don't know, open up to in the future. Because I feel like it's a really great way, regardless of your skills and abilities, to, get some feedback and insight into, someone's skills and abilities when it comes to driving because it is a lot. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to try to, manage and decision making, things of that sort. So yeah, that's a really, really great. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Young adults may even don't want to go and get assessed for disability, but
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, that's definitely, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I would be. Just something we would probably have to work out to see how that would, how that would work logistically. So I'm sorry. I'm say that one more time. Oh, yeah. So, yes, I've worked with individuals that do have ADHD, especially if they're connected to some of those programs like DVR, children long-term care. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yes. Are we the are are we the only place in the state that this can be done? That I'm not 100% sure of. I believe there were other agencies that were providing a similar service, but I don't know if they're still out there. Say that again.
I think we're the only one right now with an active city.
Mm.
So there are assessments that can be done by other, like occupational therapists and things like that. Those are being done, but with an actual active simulator like we have, I think we're one of the only ones in the state offering that service.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Is that simulator?
Yes. The wait list, I guess it varies depending. I would say it varies on the time of the year. I feel like I get a lot in the summer, which makes sense as, students are out of school, and then it kind of slows down a little bit towards the end of the year, beginning of the year, winter time. I feel like people are just like, I'm not gonna right go out and spend 3 hours. So yeah, it just really depends on the time of year. I would say right now I have a couple people on the waiting list to get scheduled, and I'm scheduling for late November, early December. Yeah, I don't think too bad. Yeah. Yes.
It's on the top
Yes.
of here.
Yes.
They want.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The cost of the pre-driving assessment is $650. So that includes the appointment time and then that final report.
And have you been successful with, if we have someone working with TBR, working at employment or with the family care organizations, is there success in getting it funded?
I think most of my referrals come from DVR, I would say. And then CLTS, I would say. I think just because of, right, a lot of them are youth. You,
Well, what's
mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think this could be something. I mean, I guess it really just comes down to, if their care manager decides to authorize it. I mean, I'm not gonna say no. So I think it could be a really great resource for someone that maybe have been through something like that. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Are we? Okay.
The time, we're like soaking up all your time. I
Oh.
knew this one was gonna get it. Can I give a really quick example while we've got
Yeah.
4 minutes? Can we steal you for 4 minutes? Yep, I will. Okay, for 4 minutes, I'm going to steal your time before we let you go. My example with driving that it just triggered. I didn't even think to bring this up before, but the question a few minutes ago with someone looking for employment, an example of how this works is we had a youth. I think this was before you were doing it actually, but we had a youth who came in to Employment Resources or ERI. He had benefits counseling services. As a part of benefits counseling, he said, I think I might want to work. But guess what? I live in the middle of rural Northeast Wisconsin, and I'm not getting anywhere unless I'm on my pedal bike. Well, why don't you drive? I don't drive because I had a stroke when I was 4, and the right side of my body doesn't agree with me most days, right? We said, hey, DVR, Voc Rehab, we can do a pre-driving assessment, give you an idea if this young man can even drive. He came to ERI, did a driving assessment, and they said, you know what? Here's what he needs to work on. Here's what we've noticed. Here's what needs to be done to make that successful. 6 months later, he's in a driver's ed program. They've adapted his pedal to the left side. They practiced and practiced and practiced. He got his driver's license. He got employed, right? Like these are the huge. We wouldn't have gotten there if he hadn't had this driving assessment. And I can say, as the person who was doing his employment specialist piece, when I was working with him and I went back to VR, I said, how's he getting to work? The closest employer to him is 5 miles away, and he's not pedaling a 3-wheel bike on country roads in the middle of December, right? So a little advocacy and Voc Rehab County Services, they'll step up and say, absolutely, right? So all of the reasons we put this is how you put this all together, right? I know the time is up. You guys are probably itching to go to something else. I know there's a good afternoon. We have a table if you want any flyers, brochures, or want to chat with Ashley and I anymore about these services. We'd love to see you at our table. Thank you, everyone.